Need to take a silent roll call to establish the presence of a quorum, which we've already done, and we have a quorum present. I'll call on co-chair, Senator from Jackson, for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that the procedural rules distributed to the committee be adopted to govern the joint committee in its deliberations.
Everyone's heard the motion. Is there discussion? No discussion. The question is on adoption of the motion. All those in favor will say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. The motion, the ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The motion is adopted. Next on your agenda, you have comments from President Bill Cole. Mr. President, if you'd like to address the committee.
Well, members of the committee, now I'll try it. To the members of the committee, I'm pleased. I'm excited. I'm excited about the opportunity we have here to review more in depth our state government and perhaps how it does run versus how it should run. I promise not to make a campaign speech out of this, but as I go around, I think so many times we need to, here we are, a state losing population, and yet the size of our state government tends to grow, and I don't know, by virtue of some of the cuts that we've had to do through the budget the last couple of years, maybe we say it's stable, but truly I think it's time sometimes that we look at the operation of state government, and when we're under this budget crisis, that we consider what the role of state government has to be, and then what do we want it to be. And the has to be is where we need to invest our money. The want it to be is if there's any money left at the end of the day. So I really encourage, and then the other frustration I think that all of us share legislatively, but there is a reason that we have three branches of government. There is a separation of those branches. But so many of the things that happen in state government, while we look around and we see what we believe to be waste or fraud or corruption or any and all the above, we have our hands tied. Legislatively, we really can't get at it. But I think identifying the problem so many times is where you have to get to before you can begin to offer a solution. So. Whether it's something that we handle legislatively, and really the only way we can do that is with purse strings, or it's something that is funded through special revenue that we really have no control over. I think as we can identify those opportunities, but more importantly, bring a suggested solution. It may not be the solution, it may not be the whole solution, but rather than don't let this become a finger pointing contest, this needs to be a proactive, all hands on deck. Let's look for solutions. Let's look for the ways that we can better operate our state government and be there for our citizens, be there for the taxpayers, the people that actually fund all this. So, at the end of the day, I thank you for agreeing to be a part of the committee, and I would encourage you to look as hard as you can at the opportunities for improvement, and then by all means, let's take it all the way and offer solutions. I appreciate it. I look forward to great work coming out of this committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. And comments from Speaker Armstead.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I'll just echo what my friend the Senate President has said. I think it's incredibly important that we undertake this task, and that we do actually use the time that we have between now and next February to really roll our sleeves up and look at all aspects of our government. When we went through this exercise that we've gone through after the regular session into the special session on the budget, it was very apparent that there are a number of ideas that have come forward from members of the House and the Senate and others about how we can actually run our government more efficiently and save money and make better use of the taxpayers' money. And yet, in that exercise, in that special session, we really didn't have fully the time to explore those and to be able to really see what the consequences of each of those might be. And that's why it's so important that we take this time over the next 6 months and do just that. And if you take, we called it the GATE Committee, the Government Accountability. I think we do need to spend the money, taxpayers' money, as if we understand that every one of those dollars is taxpayers' money, and that they worked hard to earn each of those dollars, and so we need to be accountable for that spending. We need to be transparent, and so that everyone knows how that money's being spent, and then obviously efficient with every one of those dollars, and truly make the best use that we can with the limited tax dollars that we have, and look at ways that we can really eliminate and reduce some of the spending in ways that will not really affect the key programs of our government. As Bill said, we need to see the things that we actually do need to do as government and make sure we do those well. And there may be some other things that we might want to do if we were flush with money, but simply can't do under the current budget that we are under. So it's time that we really roll our sleeves up, do that work just like families are doing throughout our state. They have to look at ways to save under their own household budgets, and they expect us to do the same thing, and I think we owe it to them to do the same thing. So I look forward to working with each one of you. I know that just from talking to you, that each of you have ideas of how we can make our government run more efficiently, how we can stretch each of those dollars to serve the people better. And I really look forward to working with you in this effort over the next 6 months and beyond that, but particularly over the next 6 months as we get into the next fiscal year. And we know that we're already going to be facing some of the same challenges that we faced in this current year budget. So we want to get a head start on that. We want to really take every opportunity we can so that we can make the best of every dollar we have. So look forward to working with you, and thank you for agreeing to serve on this committee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I do think it's a great idea. I appreciate the opportunity to serve on the committee, and it's a great challenge, a sizable challenge for the committee, but we look forward to the work. I would add that it's my hope that we're able to develop and recommend a range of strategies of things we could do, transparency in spending, and identify fraud, waste, and abuse in government where it exists, and find some efficiencies in state government. The mission, I would think, would be for us to find the things that work and streamline those things, and to eliminate wasteful spending, examine ways to improve state government performance. But the focus should remain on the taxpayer and the citizen. And to the committee members, I know your input is critical to that effort. I will, co-chair, suggest that we open up for discussion, general discussion. I know there will be some data collection going on from the agencies. The Senate President and Speaker asked for some information from some agencies. So we'll spend some time collecting some data for the next meeting, but it'd be a great time to open up for any general discussion or ideas or comments by the members if anyone has any. Senator Blair?
I don't normally like leading up to the front to have this conversation, but it's probably appropriate at this time. The Senate Committee on Government and Organization has been doing several things in the process leading up to this. So I'm excited that we're going to be able to come and group together with this committee to bring forward. Now, a couple of them that we've got in the pipeline is that we've got the West Virginia reported tip line that's out there now. There's been information coming into that, and we'll be able to share that along with this committee and have the opportunity for efficiencies. And most of my comments is going to deal with it on the efficiency side of it. But we've got that information coming in, and we'll be able to work together for that. Another one is you'll see in the State Journal today where I wrote an op-ed, and we've been working with the osteopathic school to be able to give it the potential to save the state just a little bit shy of $7 million a year, but if it chooses to. And if the legislature sees fit, the opportunity for them to go back to being a not-for-profit. And that would free up the opportunity for that school, who actually turns away about 3,800 applicants a year and only accepts 200. So that's another aspect for it. Another one that we've been studying into and looking at is private sector funding for fairs and festivals. We know how much money that comes out of the budget for that. What is it, roughly around $3 million, something to that effect of, well, private sector funding. I've talked to some in the private sector, and the response has been very, very good for that. So that's something that I would hope that this committee would move forward with. Then there's another one that's been on my mind that we haven't worked on a whole lot yet, but we're starting to move on it. And that is the ability to opt in. And when I say opt in, it's like public notice. When you have your driver's license, your vehicle registration, property taxes, all types of licensing out here. Well, West Virginia can have an opt-in program where you can receive a text, an email, even a phone call that will allow you to know in advance that this is coming. My God, the amount of money that could be saved in postage. And the fact that it's being done in the private sector right now, I think all offices sat around the table receives text messages from your dentist office, from your doctor's office, letting you know it's time for our state government to be able to do this for the citizens. It's one thing to be paying taxes, it's another thing to make paying taxes hard. I'm hoping this committee will go forward on that path as well to be able to have legislation in place in this upcoming session. Because I think that everywhere I go, I've talked about this, and the people respond very, very positively to this. So, in closing on that, I feel a little bit better now, but it's not really how much money that you make, it's how much money you spend. And we're here to look out for the tax dollars, and that's the best part about what this committee's going to be doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Anyone else? Delegate Summers?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to say that the House Health Committee will also be evaluating different type things that are in our budget, different line items during the interim sessions that once we have that data, we should be able to bring back to this committee as well, different programs.
Thank you, Chairman.
Just like to say, obviously this committee has been recently formed, but my staff for several weeks have been looking at the general revenue line items. I'm going to assume that you're talking about the whole array of government agencies, many of whom are outside of the general revenue budget. But for the purposes of balancing the general revenue budget, then the members probably are aware, or should be aware, or reacquaint themselves with the fact that that's a 1/3 of the overall appropriating budget document, and part of the struggle of balancing the general revenue budget is what's confined inside of it. You know, it's basically education, public, higher ed, military affairs and public safety, and DHHR, and then 7 other components, including we, the legislature, commerce, and so forth. So that if I was uncertain as to the mission of the committee, and I assume you can answer me, but is it to focus on the whole array of government in general, where there are, you know, fees collected, special revenue accounts that basically certain agencies, like real estate, for example, it runs off of its collection of the agents and brokers' fees every year. They don't get general revenue money. So I didn't know exactly, exactly where you were headed, but for my interest, particularly since when you hear the $30 million of collection that was shy of the estimate for the first month, that's general revenue accounting. So that when you look inside the budget itself, if you're 300 million or 200 million short this year, you've got to go to those particular areas. And the senators mentioned a higher ed issue already. It's a modest, when you look at the higher ed budget, it's a modest amount relative to the overall budget. Or public ed would require a heroic, brave change in the school aid formula, but it generates $1.9 billion. Then you've got to look inside all the DHHR does with what has the matching Medicaid money and maintenance of effort money is all over DHHR. And then military affairs and public safety with the National Guard, the prison system, all that. I mean, you've got state police, and you know, we've done a lot of looking the past year or so at those particular accounts. And then in commerce, we really, the last budget, anything that was a pass-through account, not all, but most of those were severely cut, as you know, so that I'm interested and very happy. I told the speaker when he said we're forming this committee, of course, being the finance chairman and really actually already doing a lot of this with general revenue budget, very happy to have everybody own the problem. I'm very happy to have everybody own it. I'm sure that you are, aren't you, Mr. Chairman? We're happy to have all of you own the problem. I know that my good senator from Morgan there already owns the problem. He reads the budget document, all those numbers, and asks questions. So I'm thrilled with the opportunity to work with you guys and tell you that we've done some things already. Our staff is ready to help you. And let's see what happens as we go forward.
Thank you, Senator. And certainly I would say that it's all on the table. I think special revenue, Medicaid, general revenue, from the taxpayer's perspective, I think it's my understanding we want everything on the table for discussion. Senator Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You mentioned that the President and Speaker have asked certain agencies, I can't remember exactly your words, but certain agencies for some information. Can you give us a little more information about which agencies and what kind of information?
No, I don't know. It was my understanding that they were writing a letter to gather some of that information. I don't know exactly what it would be yet. I mean, I'm particularly interested in a couple things. The Medicaid spending and how we can get better value for the dollar in our Medicaid spending, but also higher education. So I'm hoping those two are part of it. We would have an opportunity to ask and search and collect whatever information is out there, but I know that initial step is underway, but I haven't seen the letter to know exactly specifically who they're asking for or who they're asking and for what information.
Okay, thank you.
Delegate Espinosa.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to commend the leadership for establishing this committee. I've certainly been an advocate for greater accountability and transparency in our state government, and certainly in light of the current budget environment that we're experiencing, ensuring that our government operates as efficiently as possible is essential. Just yesterday, our Joint Education Committees met to review the Governor's Education Efficiency Audit to get an update as to where we are on implementation of those items, and in addition to celebrating the successes that we've achieved, looking at what areas require potential legislative action in order to facilitate additional accomplishments with regard to the education efficiency audit. Certainly recognize that a considerable amount of our budget is related to both public K through 12 and higher education. So we recognize that we have an important role to play, and can assure you that our committees will be looking very closely at how we do achieve greater efficiencies, and certainly look forward to hearing the perspective of this committee and working with this committee to that end. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Committee on Government Organization, we're trying not to duplicate the efforts of the Senate. We're reviewing the state vehicle fleet and several other items for efficiency. But one of the things I think this committee, I would like us to look into is the state of Texas a number of years ago looked at the federal requirements for some of the drawdown money that they were getting, and actually found that it was cheaper to do some of the projects on their own rather than all of these separate federal requirements. And I hope we would look into how that affects West Virginia. And it's like some of the stuff that we're bringing down federal money, it might be a good idea to say, well, no, thank you, we don't want it. We can do this different because all these other requirements are no longer required.
Thank you. Senator Carmichael?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, to my good friend Senator Williams, we'll get a copy of the letter as it goes out and make sure that all the members get a copy of the letter from the Speaker and the Senate President to the various agencies. But I just want to make a couple of comments to kind of crystallize the purpose of this committee. And I think all of us are aware that West Virginia is presently faced with one of its toughest budget crises in history. We have former finance chairman here, current finance chairman, and people that have been around the process long enough to know that this is a crisis, our budget. And revenue collections for the past fiscal year fell nearly $500 million short. And we worked with the governor to close that budget shortfall, while at the same time managing to close $271 million gap for the current budget year. But despite all those efforts, we are projecting significant budget gaps for the next several years as revenues cannot keep up with current levels of expenditures of our state government. Our state is losing population faster than any other state in the nation. And the fossil fuel industry, as it has been viewed from the National Administration, has taken a severe hit in terms of our severance tax collections. We all know it, and so we're struggling to find ways to backfill that revenue as well as right-size our state government. It's imperative that we do everything we can to right-size this government. And we need to examine things like, state vehicle fleets, which is an area of an expenditure that the public has expressed some outrage over. There are lots of, over 200 state boards and commissions here in West Virginia that other states average on the order of 90. So things like that. The formation of this gate committee, we want to just roll up our sleeves and ensure that all our tax dollars are being spent as efficiently as possible, and that there's transparency to the public in how we do our work and how the dollars are being expended. So I'm so encouraged by the group of people that are here, and know that my good friend Senator from Putnam, we will all own this problem together. We are the people's representatives, and we will own this problem together. We will solve it together. And I'm looking forward to working with each of you to ensure that we achieve the mission of delivering efficient, accountable government to the people of West Virginia. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. And I have introduction of staff on the list, so everyone knows we have a combination of House and Senate staff. We'll start down the years and have staff introduce themselves to you as well.
My name is Matt Gallagher. Don Young, Council of Senate Majority Leader. I'm James Bailey, Council of Senate Government Organization. Marley Hubbard, House Government Organizations. And Jordan Newsom.
And we also have a request, if you could, at the end of the meeting, come see Jordan and give him your email, your preferred email, be it your state account or personal account, so that we're able to distribute information to you between meetings or between interim meetings. That would also be helpful. So after the meeting, you can stop by and see Jordan. Any further business come before the committee? We did it.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Any further business? I recognize Co-Chair Carmichael.
Move we adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. That's good.